Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Generic Happy YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I'm Amar, otherwise known as Generic Happy, and with the very unexpected March 27th, 2025 Nintendo Direct behind us, I figured this would be the perfect time to now start talking about the next Nintendo Direct that we have, being the Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct on April 2nd, 2025. I intend to use this video to serve as first my expectations about the Direct, as I will be uploading a predictions video for the Direct a little bit closer to when that Direct airs, probably around the Monday or Tuesday. But I figured this would be the best time to, start talking about it, talk about some of my thoughts going into it, maybe hint at some predictions I have, talk about the most recent Direct on March 27th and how it may affect what will be seeing on April 2nd. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video, talk a little bit about that Direct as we get closer to it. I am very, very excited to see what they are preparing to show us, both about Nintendo Switch 2 and the games that will be releasing on the console. So if you do enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like on the video as a whole and your own thoughts down in the comments below. But without a further ado, let us get right into it. So yeah, as I mentioned, I intend to pretty much just talk about my expectations for the Direct in this video. Again, I'm going to try my best not to go too much into predictions, as I will be having a video largely focused on that once we get closer to it. There's going to be a lot of different things we can predict, both from the, games, maybe some of the features, a lot of the, maybe some of the capability, like the cross compatibility between the Switch and the Switch 2. But as as we get closer to it, that's something that will be talked a little bit more. Just right now, I just want to talk about some of the expectations I have. We don't know how long the Direct will be, so I guess that's where I should probably start. I do think it'll be around an hour. The only showcase we really have to compare what we will likely be getting next week to is the Nintendo Switch January 2017 presentation, where we finally saw a bunch of new games for the console. We saw the console in, pretty much all its glory on that day. But, that's kind of what I'm expecting here. To see a couple of games, not too many. There is a possibility we obviously see upwards of like 60 games, but I think the Direct will probably be, 20 minutes or so on the hardware. So, talking about the console itself, maybe if they do change the type of screen that's on the console compared to the original Nintendo Switch, maybe something like that. If there's a microphone, we've heard rumors here and there about if there is a microphone on the console. That'd be really cool if there is. But I think if they do have a microphone on the console, we'll also probably hear that there's also a microphone on the Pro controller or whatever type of controllers they'll be releasing with the console. I can't really see them. Well, I guess it's a little different with like other consoles. Like I don't think the Joy-Cons would have, like the new Joy-Cons would have a microphone on them, but like a Pro controller, since you will mainly be using a Pro controller when you are farther away from the console, so it makes sense to have a microphone on it, since that's likely what the microphone is going to be used for, just talking and maybe voice chat and all that. But I guess maybe if you have like there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation about the types of features we'll see added to the Nintendo Switch 2, the type of features we'll be seeing added to the hopefully updated version. Well, not hopefully, but in the sense that obviously we're hoping to see a lot new with Nintendo Switch Online. Maybe some new consoles added, and some features added to that. Maybe there's a new microphone on those controllers that maybe come with those new features, but that's going a little bit too far ahead right now. I just think we should expect to see around a 60-ish minute Nintendo Direct. That's not all focused on software. Most Nintendo Directs since this Nintendo Switch era really started were focused mainly on software. So, we would see, especially now recently, we would see an opener to a Nintendo Direct, which was normally a game. We would see a middle to Nintendo Direct, which is obviously normally a game as well, and then a closer, which has always usually been a game. So, those three main staples. The most recent Nintendo Direct did end on the Nintendo Today app being introduced. So, it doesn't always have to be like that, but we still also saw them pretty much position Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, which is a very amazing title, a very amazing game. I'm very excited for that. It's released next year, obviously, but we saw them position that as largely the last major main announcement for that direct. Even though, as we see with what happened a little bit earlier today, they did announce that the Zelda movie will be launching on March 26th, 2027, using that app. So, there's a lot of different, things they could be using that app for. I hope to see them update it maybe one day to be a little bit closer to what we saw with Miiverse. I think that'd be kind of cool. But I do like what they're doing now. We're getting like an article every day. We're getting maybe a new announcement every day. They did officially confirm that as we get closer to the movie's release, we will also be seeing new announcements. And they confirmed in that direct that after the direct next week, we'll also be getting, I'm not sure. I saw a lot of people discussing that this had daily updates. I'm not sure if they meant like daily updates just for like in general for Nintendo, or daily updates on the Nintendo Switch 2. In that case, if it like was like that, we will likely be seeing that the Nintendo Today app and service take the place of like the photo of the day that we used to get for Super Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS, or like this Smash Dojo that we got with Super Smash Brothers Brawl. We will see like something like that. I think that'd be kind of exciting. I don't know if they have news that they can talk about like every single day for the Nintendo Switch 2, but still, as we get closer to that direct and after the direct, we will definitely be seeing news from the Nintendo Switch 2 and on the Nintendo Switch 2 on the Nintendo Today app. But that's a little different. Maybe they'll mention that in the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, but again, I'm expecting to see I'm gonna say a larger focus on the hardware than we usually get in Nintendo Directs, but also a similar amount of like focus on the software. So, that's gonna be very cool. It's gonna be very, very interesting to see how they do that. But, I expect to see the console. I expect the console to be played. Something we did not get with the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2 was a trailer. In the sense of what we got with the Nintendo Switch, we saw it being played out in the open. We saw a couple of games on it. We saw pretty much all of the different functionality for it. We didn't really get that with the Nintendo Switch 2's reveal, so kind of what I'm thinking they may do. And I won't really predict too much about what I think we will see in this trailer. But I do think we will see a trailer for the console that will be very similar to that one. I think they wanted to do a different, they wanted to go a different path with the reveal for the Nintendo Switch 2 than they did with the Nintendo Switch. We did not get a pre-announcement that they were going to be announcing it that day. Again, they didn't show many games. They only showed one game in this trailer compared to the 5 or 6 or 7 that we saw in the Switch 1 reveals. So, something interesting. I'm not sure if I expect to see that trailer. I think it would be cool to see a trailer. They start off the direct, talking about this will be about the Nintendo Switch 2. So please watch the whole direct and stay up on our social media pages to see and hear more information on it. But we have one thing we would like to begin with this, and it is a trailer for it. I think that'd be pretty cool. The one thing I guess, that is going to be really interesting just from the get-go when the trailer when the direct starts, is if they will start on a Nintendo, like a opener game. I think, but since September 2018, or I guess you can also say the June direct in September in 2018, we've had an opener on every single direct, I believe, at least every single general Nintendo direct. So it would be interesting to see if they will still go that route, because technically, by the time the direct starts, we won't know what games are out, what games are going to be releasing on the console, except for a new Mario Kart. So does a new Mario Kart open the direct? Does something else open the direct? Do they announce a new game through that opener, and then they're like, what you just saw was the new, um, maybe like like an enhanced version of Metroid Prime 4, or the new, um, Donkey Kong or something like that, playing on the Nintendo Switch 2, and that is our first game that we would like to talk about here. And I guess it also just depends on what their structure for the direct is going to be. Are they just going to focus on hardware first? Are they going to sprinkle in hardware information throughout the direct? Do we see a spotlights like what we normally get? Like with the most recent direct, our spotlights were things like Dragon Quest 1 2 HD 2D and Metroid Prime 4 and Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven and stuff like that. And then we all saw highlights, and that was like Pokemon Legends ZA and the new Story of Seasons and the new Everybody's Golf. So will they go that direction as well? I'm kind of expecting them to go the direction of what a normal direct is. So we will see spotlights, we will see highlights. I think if they don't do that, for the hardware section, I think that'd be I think that'll be a lot more understandable if they don't do it for that section. But when it comes to the software, I do think they will do, the spotlights, the highlights, especially the direct goes longer than an hour. Directs have been, especially since the Switch era started, a lot more focused and a lot more, to the point. So, I expect this direct to also follow in that direction, but I could also see it going a little bit longer than an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how many games they have to show, depending on the games they want to talk about from, their own internal studios, and how much they actually want to talk about the console itself. But speaking of the console itself, I do expect we see it, as I keep reiterating. I think we will see it a lot in this direct. I think we will see the new features. If they have a new screen on it, maybe they mention that it is an OLED or an LCD or something like that, or an LED. Screen. Again, the microphone. I think we'll see a lot of a focus on the Joy Cons. We already saw a tease of what the connection between the two, how the Joy Cons are connected to the Switch, mainly through magnets. I think they will talk about that. They will show off maybe a new grip, which I think they did show off in the Nintendo Switch trailer, like the Switch 2 trailer. Maybe we'll see that new grip in action. How you disconnect them. How easy it is to disconnect the Joy-Cons. We will see if maybe Amiibo connectivity is still in the Joy-Con, the right Joy-Con. Maybe they'll move that one. Maybe they'll move the functionality to the left Joy-Con. We'll have to see. But I think we will see a large focus on the console itself, the Joy-Cons, and that will honestly, I think, be it for the hardware. I don't think we will see like a Pro controller, or I don't think we'll always see a major focus on a Pro controller, just because I don't expect to see like too many new features in a Pro controller, just because those are pretty much the traditional controllers Nintendo releases. So, I think we will see some of the features that are featured like in the Joy-Con. So like if they make a more enhanced vibration motor, I think we will see that in the controller, like the Pro controller. And if they confirm that Amiibo functionality is back, I think we will see that in the Pro controller. But I don't think they'll mention that too much in the direct. I think they want to focus on the Joy-Cons and the console itself, and I think that makes sense. There would be no reason not to do that. But I think that will be, again, the main focus of the hardware section. If they sprinkle that in throughout the direct instead of doing like a specific hardware section, I think, any way it goes, I think the hardware will be just mainly focused on the console and the controllers. But, the hardware isn't the only thing. Obviously, we are expecting to see software. I think we will see, I guess my expectation here is, obviously we will see Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive software from Nintendo themselves and some third parties. But how will they handle backwards compatibility? I mean, how will they talk about that? Um, I think they've pretty much confirmed that most games for Nintendo Switch are backwards compatible. I'm expecting them maybe to mention a couple that aren't, maybe through like a graphic. So something like Labo or, something that like uses, I guess, Labo is interesting because in theory, you could still use your old Joy-Cons to play Labo. You just can't use the console. So you'd have to use, well, I guess Labo will be compatible, but is it recommended to play with the Nintendo Switch 2? Probably not. Just because you could use the old Joy Cons, but the console probably won't fit into the actual Labo, some of the Labo creations. So I guess that makes sense. But something like Ring Fit Adventure, I think that will be compatible, even if obviously the main Nintendo Switch 2 Joy Cons don't fit into the Ring Fit or the Ring Con. I think that would be compatible, but we will definitely see a couple of examples probably of games that aren't compatible or just aren't recommended to play on the Nintendo Switch. But I think they will talk about backwards compatibility for a little bit. And it's not just backwards compatibility. It will be the Nintendo Switch virtual game cards that we saw in the most recent Direct. Maybe they will talk about that a little bit more, before we get to the actual Nintendo Switch update that adds that. Maybe they will say something about how those will work on the Nintendo Switch 2. It seems like they already confirmed that those will be compatible with Nintendo Switch 2, but it does seem like they are setting it up to be a Nintendo Switch 2 feature. I was actually kind of surprised that they didn't hold to that to announce it in this Direct. Coming up, just because I think it would have made a lot more sense. You could like put it like through a press release that this will also apply to Nintendo Switch, but I think for those looking at that update and that new feature, I think that would have been better fit in this Direct, where they can also explain a little bit more. But again, it makes sense. I think we'll hear about that, but I think the main thing we will hear about backwards compatibility is how they're gonna handle enhanced versions. I began this section talking about what will the opener be. Would it be Metroid Prime 4 as the opener? And I think that ultimately depends on if they are handling backwards compatibility by a case by case basis, and some games will be getting like enhanced versions and some will just be directly playable as the Switch 1 version on your Switch 2. If Metroid Prime 4, if they do enhanced versions, I think Metroid Prime 4 has a good chance of being an opener, just because I think that would get an enhanced version. And, just in general, we didn't get a date for the game in the most recent Nintendo Direct on March 27th, so it would make sense for that also to appear here. I don't think there's like a reason not to give a date. That Direct, I really like that Direct, but the one main criticism I do have is they didn't really announce anything for this year. And that could be, obviously, they were holding some of the announcements for this Direct. Nintendo Switch 2 will obviously be their focus for this year. But I do expect them still to have some games that they just didn't announce in that Direct. For me, I ultimately believe that they wanted to do this final Nintendo Switch Direct just to announce whatever new entries they have coming to the console. So like we saw Metroid Prime 4, we saw Pokemon Legends EA, we saw a new Rhythm Heaven, and we saw a new Tomodachi Life. And I wouldn't be surprised if those are like the final 4 major new games coming to the console, while other releases, Nintendo's other releases would be things like remasters, so something like a Metroid Prime 2 or 3, or like an F-Zero GX, or like remakes, so like the heavily rumored Fire Emblem 4 remake. But like those 4 were the main, remaining games that they are internally or externally developing, that will just be new entries in certain series. Obviously, we could see, and there's a chance that this Direct also does reveal that there's some other games that Nintendo just hasn't talked about yet, that are like smaller, but maybe not like a Mario Kart or like a 3D Mario or like a 3D Donkey Kong, but something like a new Kid Icarus that could be announced in this direct and then be, afterwards be announced as like a Nintendo Switch game as well. It just plays a little better on Nintendo Switch. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's honestly the case. Um, I, d- I, I've also been thinking, will we see will we see the Tomodachi Life, living our dream, or like living the dream, and a Rhythm Heaven Groove? Will we see them in this direct? Just because Nintendo did announce them and they're still so far away, I don't think so. Again, I think they will. I think those two games will stay being marketed on the Switch, just as again, the final pillars that Nintendo's laying on the console. Um, Same thing with Pokemon Legends ZA. I think that will be continued to be marketed as a Switch 1 game that maybe has some enhancements on the Switch 2, but they already announced it for the Switch. They've now done 2 gameplay trailers on the Switch. Same thing with Metroid Prime 4, but I think Metroid Prime 4 is just in a little bit of a more different situation just because it's been so long since they announced it, and now they're starting to show it. I think it makes sense for them also to show it on the Switch 2 if there is a Switch 2 version. But with something like Pokemon Legends ZA, I think that's again one major last pillar for the Switch, and I think Nintendo's still going to want to market that as a Switch game. Pokemon games do sell best, obviously, on bigger install bases, so they'll want to market that to like their biggest install base, and so I think it just makes generally a lot more sense for something like a Tomodachi Life or a Rhythm Heaven or Pokemon Legends ZH just to be focused on through the marketing on the Switch and not really the Switch 2. So, but there's obviously still a chance we'll see them. We could see them in a backwards compatibility section, but I don't think we'll like hear about them in this direct in a major way. I think maybe later in the year we get another direct that's like a mix of Switch 2 and Switch 1 games, and that's where we hear our next update in Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven, and then we get probably a Pokemon Presents either in June or August, and they again talk about Pokemon Legends ZA. Besides that, my expectations are pretty high on this direct just in general. I'm expecting to see some big announcements here. Um, you know, we've already seen Mario Kart be announced. Will Nintendo EPD 8, the 3D Mario Studio, will they announce a new game here? I'm expecting them to. Will that be a new 3D Mario or a new 3D Donkey Kong? I will have to just think about that a little bit longer before I fully publish that video with the predictions. But, I expect to see a bunch of bigger games here. It's kind of more difficult just to do straight on predictions, just because we saw with like the Switch 2, this Nintendo Switch 1 Switch presentation in January 2017. Obviously, we got like the major heavy hitters. We saw a new 3D Mario. We saw Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in the sizzle reel. We got a new Splatoon. But we also saw big surprises with a new 1-2. With a new casual game in the form of 1-2 Switch. We saw the announcement of ARMS, which was being made by the same EPD that does Mario Kart. We saw the announcement of Fire Emblem Warriors. We saw Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Xenoblade Chronicles 2 be announced. We saw the introduction that Snipper Clips would be published by Nintendo, so it kind of is like a second party, first party type of game for them. So yeah, it's hard to predict just because there's so many avenues Nintendo could go with a direct like this. Maybe we see the new Monolith Soft game. Maybe we do see a new, as I've been talking about a lot, maybe a new Donkey Kong, maybe a new Star Fox, maybe a new Pikmin. If there's like major games for we're gonna get a major game at launch. We'll probably get a casual game alongside that. We could see that dynamic be Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4, depending on how they again want to market Metroid Prime 4. But I think we also are expecting at least one other, maybe two other big games to release by the end of the year. And I think that this direct will ultimately announce the games from whenever the console launches. I'm expecting a June launch, but it could be in May, it could be in July, August. But whenever the console launches until around 8 to 12 months after that console's launch. I think we'll be seeing games within that period. So that could be anywhere from 4 new games to 12 new games being announced from Nintendo themselves, and then third parties being mixed in to supplement those games when it's needed. Other than that, I'm very excited for this direct. Again, we don't really get directs like this. This will probably be the biggest Nintendo Direct we ever get, at least until the next console releases or next console reveal. This will be probably the biggest direct we ever get. So but a lot of that will be defined by the games that we see and not just the console. We've already seen the console to a pretty decent extent. I guess I should also mention, in the pictures we saw for, I believe, the Nintendo virtual game cards, we did see them, either if it was intentional or not, the right Joy-Con, we saw the C button now that we saw the C button be shown. And we've known that the C button exists for a little bit. Again, I think they'll talk about that in this direct. If they already have renders ready with that C button present, I think again we will see that, just because they'll probably talk about that, and then we'll officially see what the C button is called and what the meaning of it behind it is. Because we already have a capture button, so that can't mean it's for the capture, like the screenshots and videos. So we'll see about that. But besides that, I'm expecting a pretty beefy Nintendo Direct. Again, I don't expect every single announcement to be like the biggest announcement out there. I do expect that, maybe we'll see something like an Xenoblade Warriors, which obviously won't be like the best-selling game of all time. It will be, I think, a very good game, but I think we'll see a entourage of different games, both big and small, that when mixed together give us the entire, either give us an entire 8 to 12 months of what Nintendo will be launching this console with, alongside maybe, I'm not expecting to see for Nintendo Switch first party announcements for the Nintendo Switch 1. Again, I think they would have done those either in this direct, or I don't think we'll see Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven in any significant way in this direct. It's always possible, but I think that would also take away a little bit from the flow, because they again could have announced those here this past Thursday, but they didn't. So I think we will probably be seeing those be announced like in social media drops on Nintendo Today, or like through maybe again a mixed Nintendo Direct in like June or July that announces both Switch 1 and Switch 2 games. But yeah, that is all I really have to say on this. This was kind of like a transition from that direct to what I'm expecting to be obviously a really big direct next Wednesday. So I wanted to make this video just to, transition away from that one. I love that direct a lot. It had some big announcements that I'm very excited for, but in a lot of ways, I think, and I've seen a lot of people call it this, it was the appetizer to what we'll be seeing on Wednesday. Nintendo got, I think, probably as I mentioned, the big announcements left for the Nintendo Switch out of the way. They don't have to worry about it being overshadowed by a Nintendo Switch 2 major Mario Kart game, major 3D Mario game. Those announcements are out there. They can talk about them whenever they feel like. And no one will have to question, I think, come Wednesday, will these games be playable on Nintendo Switch 2 and all that. And I don't really think it's a question now either, but I think there's obviously always going to be like a little bit of a weirdness when you watch a direct and you see a game announced for the Nintendo Switch. I think Nintendo wants to try to remove that as much as possible. So any new games, new entries, I think they just wanted to get them announced and not really have to worry about that happening in future directs. The remasters or the ports and the remakes, I'm sure they're fine with that, because those aren't like the huge games that new entries are. And then again, those will probably be announced in directs where they can say this is also going to be playable on the Switch 2, maybe not enhanced on the Switch 2, but playable on the Switch 2. But yeah, I wanted to make this video again just to talk a little bit about this direct as we get closer to it. Depending on when this video is uploaded, we may be just a couple days, and within probably 24 to 48 hours after this video being uploaded, you will also see my predictions to this direct. You know, we will see what this direct has to hold in just less than a week from now. And yeah, so be on the lookout for my predictions once I upload those. I will also update the description once those predictions are out there. You know, I gotta record them. I've been writing them down, but I do have to record them now and you know, talk a little bit more about them. That's why I wanted to just stray away a little bit from them and just talk a little bit generally about this direct. I'm very excited for it, as I've mentioned a couple of times now. I think it's gonna be, again, a really big direct, a really fun direct to watch. And I think it will set the tone, at least for the first couple of years, for the Nintendo Switch 2. You know, it will set the tone on if we can see what to expect from enhanced games and cross-gen games. You know, is Metroid Prime 4 going to be the only cross-gen game? Is Metroid Prime 4 a cross-gen game? Stuff like that. But yeah, again, be on the lookout for the predictions videos very, 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 very soon. I'm very excited to record that, but without a further ado, I hope you all enjoy this video, and I hope you all do what makes you happy, because that rhymes generic happy, and I'll see you next one. Goodbye.